Well, Andrew, so great to meet you.
Great
and
to meet you.
Before we talk about the show and a few other things, I want to ask you something. When did you know you were a funny guy?
I knew I was a funny guy when I could make my parents laugh. I think like that. I think that was like that's the obvious reason for someone to continue trying to make people laugh. Is like if you can make your parents laugh who never laugh at anything because they're always mad at you most of the time. If they can like find humor in something that you're doing, I think that was like making my mom laugh is what I really liked.
So how old were you about? Do you remember?
I just remember like doing faces and impressions and being like a goof. When I was probably like 5 or 6 is when I remember like me making my mom laugh by doing something stupid.
Yeah.
I used to sneak out of my crib and watch Carson.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my mom would like yell at me about it, but she said it was like fascinating how much I loved Carson. I would do it all the time.
Isn't that interesting?
I would go get food out of the fridge and I would sit, and then the next morning if she didn't wake up that night, she didn't hear me, she would say, "Were you up watching TV?" And I'd say no, but the fridge would have been open, the drawers, I didn't close anything.
Yeah, why
and
would
there
you?
would be slices of American cheese wrappers all over the floor. So she knew. I love cheese and hot dogs apparently.
Well, there you go.
I still do.
There you go.
Yeah.
Why would it change?
Yeah.
And now you're pretty much a veteran in stand-up. You keep busy. You've got tons on the go. When you get up there in front of an audience, no matter if it's a giant audience or a small club, do you still get butterflies?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a veteran. I've been doing it for 10 years. I would say I'm experienced. This is the new level, because the veterans would probably hate for me to say that. They'd be like, "You're not a veteran." But I'm even 10 years in, I still get butterflies in the sense of excitement. It's no longer like nervous energy. It's more excitable energy. Like anxious. I'm anxious. I'm like excited to go do it. And if you don't have that feeling, I think you probably shouldn't do comedy anymore.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, like, I'm so excited or I'm so intrigued of what's going to happen, or even if you feel like the show might be bad, that's almost just as fun when you're like, oh, this could be terrible. The crowd is not into it. I mean, that's kind of just as sexy to me. And I think if you don't have any of those feelings anymore, I mean, I think then kind of it's lost all of its love for you.
I think that would push you to be better and whatever, just keep it going. And then you land this fantastic Showtime show, Dying Up Here. And I have to tell you, your character, I haven't liked up until last week when he finally did something, when he punched him in the nose.
Right.
Like, okay, you justified yourself, But he's an intense guy to play, I would think. Like, is it hard every day after you've shot those scenes? Like, whoa, what do you do to come down off of that?
It's really hard, actually. I was talking about that to somebody yesterday. I mean, people say, there's a lot of people that are like, I hate that guy. I hate you on that show. And it's like, well, then I did my job, because that's literally what I was supposed to do. It sucks that people take that energy and assume that's who I am in real life.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I get it. It's fine. But like, that's a difficult thing to not take that home. I think it's really, really hard. I'm not as experienced. I've only been acting for 4 or 5 years. So that's a thing I'm learning. To not take home that kind of negative, drowning energy, it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard. And especially on someone that you love, that you live with, they don't like it either.
I'm sure. But, when you look at the character, here's a guy we get to find out exactly maybe why he is how he is.
Yeah.
The way his dad's treated him and, all that. And he's a very competitive guy. He wants to get on Carson, but he's not getting, it's just not working out for him. But he's seeing these other guys who he thinks is not as funny, why are they getting it and stuff. So as a real life comedian, I mean, how hard is it not to be jealous of your good buddy pal who just made the Jimmy Fallon show or whatever, I don't think there's anything these days that is equivalent to the Carson show. You don't really make it to be, you know what I mean? But is it hard? Is it a hard thing?
I think it's well, I think when you're young, which I think I'm playing Bill as a younger comedian. And when you're young in the game, both in age and in the game of comedy, you are very bitter and jealous, and it's natural because you are fist fighting to get something. And then when you get older, and in comedy and in life, and I'm in my 30s now, and my perspective is a little bit different. You're not as jealous because you are more focused on what you're doing. I think that's important as you go on in your career in entertainment. That if you're so worried about what everybody else is getting, you're going to drown. You have to be focused on getting your own thing and going your own way. And I think when I was younger, I was very bitter.
Yeah.
It's like natural as a young comic to be like, why did that guy or why did that girl get that showcase? We should have gotten that show. but now, you know, as I get older and truthfully I've gotten more success, that you're focused on your own achievements and those are more important to you. And when someone around you does well, especially if you like them, it feels great because the community keeps winning. You know, the comedy boom right now is like, it's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah,
I mean, the closest to Carson, quote unquote, in our world, I said in the digital age, would be Joe Rogan. You know, Rogan blesses people and they become a part of his world. And then, I mean, I have so many people that show up just because I did Rogan, and Joe is so supportive of comedy. So
that's amazing.
He's been kind of like our new digital blessing, you know, for the podcast world and the digital internet world of Carson, I guess.
Yeah, and I have to ask about having Jim Carrey on board with this show. Wow,
it's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's without sounding cheap, he was my comedic hero. I mean, I don't. There wasn't anybody growing up that I respected or admired more, and it's just coincidental that I happen to be able to work with him, you know, years later. But it was incredible. Learning that it was a project that he was going to be a part of was so intriguing, and then getting the part and being a part of it and listening to him tell stories that we use on the show. I think that's just, I mean, there's something about it that's so close to home. And a lot of times the audience doesn't know. Yeah. A lot of those stories are Jim's life. And it's in all of our lives. It's not just one character isn't playing Jim. So I think, you know, my character, if you're this far behind, I'm sorry, but you know, I lose Midnight Special, and that happened to Jim. Yeah. And I think that really does change the scope of your comedic future. And he was like, I need to have these nuggets in there so people really see that happens, like that's a real thing, you know?
It's amazing. Last question, I have to ask you about The Disaster Artist, because we are very, very excited about it. My son has watched The Room maybe 4,000 times. Yes. I'm not even exaggerating. Yeah. He follows Tommy Wiseau around. So how cool is it to be in this film?
I mean, that to me was like, I mean, and it happened kind of right in the midst of this show. And when I got asked to be a part of it, it was like, I was a big Room fan. I think if they've never seen The Room, that's a hard thing to conceptualize. You're like, I don't even know what it is. It's the best, worst movie of all time. People have heard, but you have to see it. But to see Franco's film, I don't think you have to see it, the original, to love this, because it's so fun and brilliant. But working with Rogan and Franco was so much fun. And it was one of those moments where even on set, not just looking back, people were breaking and laughing and having so much fun doing it that I was like, this is going to be so good. I could just tell it was going to be good because everyone was having, there wasn't one take where people didn't thoroughly enjoy it.
Well, can't wait to see it. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. Best of luck with all your success and everything. And hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon.
I hope so.